My son left me alone at an airport in a foreign country without money, without documents, without hope. He wanted to get rid of me once and for all so he could take my house for himself. But when he opened the door to the house, I was already standing there smiling. Oh, you're back. I have a surprise for you. That surprise ruined his whole life. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I returned from the restroom to find them huddled together like conspirators. Rodney and Cora, heads bent close, whispering with an urgency that stopped the moment I approached. Everything okay? I settled into my seat at gate 17. You two have been quiet this morning. Rodney didn't look up from his phone. Fine, just tired from the trip. Cora's smile was too bright, too sudden. We're just ready to get home. Can't wait to sleep in our own bed. The air between us felt thick, wrong. 20 minutes later, Rodney stood abruptly. Dad, we need water and some snacks for the flight. You know what we all like. Can you grab stuff? I started to rise. Sure, we can all go. No, you go. He pressed a $20 bill into my palm. I need to make a work call, and Cora has to hit the restroom. Here's $20. The insistence in his voice didn't match the simple errand. All right. I took the money. Be right back. The airport shop was small. I took my time, grabbed the imported water with a blue label, trail mix for Cora, protein bars for me. The checkout line moved slowly. 12 minutes passed, maybe 14. I rounded the corner back to gate 17 with the plastic bag in hand. The seats were empty. Not just empty, cleared. No backpacks, no jackets. No sign anyone had been sitting in seats 14, 15, and 16. I yanked my backpack off my shoulder, hands shaking as I unzipped the main compartment. My spare shirt, toiletry bag, nothing else. The inner pocket, where my passport always stayed, empty. No phone, no wallet. Gone. All of it. I half ran to the gate counter. The couple sitting in 14 and 15. Did you see where they went? Evan's party. They took the earlier flight to Denver. Standby upgrades. Departed 20 minutes ago. Denver. My voice came out louder than I intended. We're going to Seattle. That's my son, sir. Their boarding passes were for the Denver connection. The terminal tilted slightly. Denver, not Seattle, not home. Did they leave anything? A message? No, sir. I'm sorry. I walked back to the empty seats, sat down heavily, pulled out the $20 bill from my pocket. Still there, still crisp. The only money I had in the world right now. He gave me $20 and took everything. I'd spent $12 being thoughtful. $8 remained. I stood, legs unsteady, and made my way to airport security. My son took my passport. The words sounded absurd, spoken aloud. My phone, my wallet, everything. He just left me here. Do you have any identification? Any way to prove who you are? I have nothing. $8 and a bag of water bottles. The officer gave me a case number, suggested I contact the U.S. Consular Agency downtown. I walked away from her office, watching planes take off, rising into cloudless blue sky. One of them carried my son. I stood there, watching them climb and disappear as something hard and cold settled in my chest, where trust used to live. Stranded, yes. Helpless, no. The businessman in me, dormant these past years since retirement, woke up. First, identification. Second, money. Third, home. The information desk directed me to the U.S. Consular Agency. I walked there 20 minutes. The office was small, efficient. A woman at the desk, Patricia Henderson, looked up as I entered. Tell me what happened, Mr. Evans. Start from the beginning. My son left me at the airport. Took my passport, my phone, my wallet, everything. He's been living in my house rent-free for 2 years. I think he wants to keep it. We can issue an emergency passport. 3 business days minimum. Requires a police report and payment of $135. I empty my pockets. $8, Mexican coins, the $20 bill. Patricia returned 10 minutes later. Payment deferred until I reached home. Emergency assistance fund would help with immediate needs. You're not broken, she said. You're angry. Angry people find their way home. Outside the consular office, Maria from the airport information desk approached. You have family to call? Friends. My son was my family. I have neighbors, but no way to reach them. Sometimes the people closest to us are the furthest away. My father. Similar story. Different details. Same betrayal. He survived. Built something new. You will too. She drove me to a hostel in her old Honda. $15 per night. My roommates, 2 German backpackers, a construction worker from Guadalajara, shared their dinner. The girl lent me her phone. I dialed my home number. It rang. No answer. Tried again an hour later. Still no answer. Day 2. I walked to the police station downtown. The officer took my statement through a translator. Passport stolen, phone stolen, wallet stolen by my son. And you believe this was planned? Yes, this was planned. That night, lying on the hostel bunk, the memory surfaced. Last month, Rodney had asked me to sign a simple form. Dad, we should update your medical directive just in case something happens. I signed with the electronic signature pad, trusting him completely. The realization hit like cold water. That wasn't a medical directive. What had I signed? Power of attorney? Property transfer? Day 3. My mind worked through the problem. What does Rodney want? The house. What does Rodney think? That I'm trapped here. What's his timeline? At least a week before he expects me home. That was my advantage. Surprise. Patricia handed me the emergency passport at noon. Thin, temporary, but official. She also gave me an envelope, $600 cash from the Emergency Assistance Fund. I found an internet cafe. Seattle Direct. $420. I booked it for tomorrow morning. I'd beat him home by at least 3 days. Back at the hostel, I made my own checklist. Document everything. Change the locks. Find that paper I signed. Get a lawyer. Make Rodney explain himself face to face. Not revenge. Justice. The next morning, I boarded the flight to Seattle. Economy, middle seat. My emergency passport rested in my shirt pocket. $165 in my sock. The plane taxied down the runway. I didn't look back. My mind was already at my front door, already planning the expression on my face when Rodney walked in and found his father waiting. The wheels hit runway concrete. Home. But home was different now. Not refuge, battlefield. The ride-share driver pulled up to the house 47 minutes later. I stared at it from the back seat. Pale blue Craftsman, white trim. $850,000 of real estate. My life's work. My security. Rodney lived there rent-free and wanted to take it all. I paid the $47 fare, added $3 for tip. Stood on the sidewalk with my nearly empty backpack. Alton. I turned. Daniel Kowalski emerged from next door. Retired history teacher, observant. You're back early. Where's Rodney? Is everything all right? I decided quickly. They came back early. Different flight. I had some delays. Different flight. His eyebrows rose. That seems odd for a family vacation. Tell me about what you saw when they were loading the car. We stood on the strip of grass between our driveways. Daniel adjusted his glasses. It was early morning, 6:30, maybe earlier, 3 days before you were due back. Boxes, bags, more than seemed normal for a vacation. I waved, but Rodney didn't wave back. Seemed focused, intense, maybe premeditated, careful, hidden. I filed this away. Thank you. If Rodney comes by while I'm out, don't tell him you saw me. Daniel studied my face. Understanding dawned slowly. I haven't seen you. You're still in Mexico. Far as I know. Exactly. I retrieved the spare key from its hiding place, the fake rock near the rhododendrons. Unlocked the door. Disarmed the security system. Code unchanged, which meant Rodney expected no interference. I stepped inside. The house smelled stale. I moved through rooms with increasing speed. Living room, grandfather clock missing. Dining room, silver service gone. My bedroom, the jewelry box emptied of my wife's rings. The study, my Omega watch absent. The vintage Leica camera absent. Rodney didn't just abandon me. He robbed me first. My home office occupied the converted sunroom. On the desk, centered perfectly, lay a manila folder. I opened it. Legal documents. The top page read, Deed of Gift in bold typeface. Grantaire, Alton Evans. Grantee, Rodney Evans. Date 4 weeks ago. My signature at the bottom. Witnessed, notarized. My hands didn't shake. The anger was frozen solid, sharp enough to cut. I walked back outside. Can I borrow your phone? Daniel handed it over without question. I photographed everything. Every empty space where valuables used to sit. The deed of gift from every angle. Document everything. Assume nothing. Trust nobody. I called my bank. Everything looks normal, sir. Last transaction was 4 weeks ago. Automatic utility payment. No attempts to add authorized users or change beneficiaries. One small relief. Rodney took objects, took the house on paper, but hadn't drained the money. I sat at my desk, the deed of gift in front of me. I remembered. That Tuesday, 1 month ago. Rodney brought lunch. Dad, I updated some documents for you. Medical power of attorney. Living will, that stuff. You should review and sign just to be current. His laptop was already open. I signed electronically. Trusting. Never saw a printed copy. That's when I lost everything. I stood alone in my living room. I spoke to the empty house. You thought I'd be stranded. You thought I'd be gone long enough for you to establish possession. You thought wrong. Morning light cut across the table. Top of the list, lawyer. I dialed Margaret Chen's office. I asked for a consultation, said it was urgent. My son stole my house. I have the document. I need help today. This is Margaret Chen. Tell me what happened. I gave her the condensed version. She asked 3 questions. Is the document notarized? Yes. Is your signature genuine? Yes. Did you know what you were signing? No. Come in at 11 o'clock. Bring the document and any identification you have. Her office was downtown, 20th floor, corner view. I placed the deed of gift on her desk. She began examining it. 5 minutes later, she looked up. This is a properly executed deed of gift. However, if you can prove you were deceived about the document's nature, we can argue fraud. He said it was updating my medical directives. That's our angle. Misrepresentation of document contents. Concealment of true nature. She made copies. This will cost money. Retainer, court fees. Are you prepared for that? I sold a business 3 years ago. I have resources. This is worth every dollar. I wrote the $5,000 check. What are our odds? If we can prove deception, 60/40ths in your favor. Maybe better with the airport abandonment adding context. Next, the police station. I filed a formal complaint. Theft of property from airport. Stolen passport, wallet, phone. Stolen items from home. The officer typed slowly. The suspect is your son? And he lives with you in my house. Yes. The house he's trying to steal. This is a civil matter, sir. We can take the report about stolen items, but property disputes go through courts. I provided serial numbers and estimated value. Back at Margaret's office, she prepared the documents. Motion to invalidate deed of gift based on fraud and undue influence. I'm requesting expedited hearing. Your son will be served with these papers. He'll know you're back. He'll know you're fighting. Good. I want him to know. The locksmith, Frank, arrived at 5 o'clock. Old keys are disabled. Nobody's getting in with old keys. I paid the $340. I tested each lock twice. My house again. I moved furniture, small changes, marking territory. My house, my fortress, my battleground. The new phone sat silent. Rodney thought his father was still in Mexico. Helpless, abandoned. Wrong. 2 days passed. I prepared. Documents organized. New keys in my pocket. Recording app tested. Late afternoon on the second day, I heard a car door slam. I moved to the window. Rodney's silver Honda Accord sat in my driveway. He stood beside it, staring at the house. Cora emerged, whispered something. I heard a key scraping in the lock. Once, twice, 3 times, harder. The old key, useless now. Rodney cursed quietly. Cora's voice. What's wrong? Lock's jammed or something. More scraping. Then silence. Footsteps checking the back door. They returned to the front porch. Call him, Cora said. My new phone rang. Unknown number. I answered on the third ring. Yes, Dad. Is that you? It is. Where are you? I've been trying to reach. I'm home, Rodney. Inside the house. Your keys don't work anymore. Dead silence. Then what? When did you? 3 days ago. Come to the front door. We need to talk. I opened the door but stood in the frame. Rodney looked exhausted. Cora stood slightly behind him, eyes sharp. Rodney tried his concerned son expression. Dad, thank goodness you're safe. We were so worried. What happened at the airport? We look for you everywhere. I raised my hand. He stopped. I know what happened. You sent me to buy water. You flew to Denver. You took my passport, my phone, my wallet, my money. You abandoned me in Mexico with nothing. His mouth opened, closed. No words came. I stepped aside just enough to reveal the coffee table through the doorway. Legal documents stacked neatly. I have something to show you. I picked up the top document, held it so they could see the header. Motion to invalidate deed of gift based on fraud. Rodney's face went pale. That document you had me sign. The one you said was a medical directive. It wasn't. It was a property transfer. You stole my house on paper before you abandoned me in another country. Cora's hand gripped Rodney's arm. Her voice came out ice cold. We need a lawyer, Rodney. Rodney recovered. His voice hardened. That deed is legal. My lawyer already reviewed it. Your signature properly notarized, legally binding. This house is mine. You're the one trespassing. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police for unlawful occupation. I didn't flinch. Go ahead. Seattle Police East Precinct already has my report. Case number 774821. Theft in Puerto Vallarta Airport. Stolen items from this house before the trip. Collectible watch. Vintage camera, silver service. Your neighbor saw you loading boxes. Call them. See what happens. I pulled out my own phone, showed the screen. Red recording .visible. This conversation is being recorded. Washington is a two-party consent state, and I'm informing you now. Everything you say from this point is documented. Rodney's phone lowered. Cora tugged his arm, whispered something urgent. This isn't over, Rodney said. No, it's not. But it's not going the way you planned. They walked backward off the porch, down the steps, toward their car. I stood in the doorway until they were gone. The new lock clicked solidly. I leaned against it, breathing slow and steady. First round mine. 3 days after the confrontation, I sat in Margaret's office. She slid a thick document across her desk. Rodney Evans has retained representation. Attorney named Robert Michaels specializes in property disputes. He's filed a counter-motion asserting the deed's validity and requesting immediate possession pending court decision. The battle had truly begun. Michaels had filed for an expedited hearing on possession, claiming I was unlawfully occupying my son's property. He's separating the criminal allegations from the property dispute, Margaret explained, making it look like you're using criminal complaints to relitigate a gift you regret. 1 week after the confrontation, Margaret called with worse news. Rodney has filed an emergency motion for immediate possession. His argument: he's homeless, living in a hotel while his legal property is occupied by someone who gave it to him. I authorized another $3,500 retainer. Daniel mentioned the social media attack awkwardly over the fence. Cora's post was carefully worded. My husband's father gave us his house, then changed his mind and locked us out. We're homeless while he lives in our legal property. My privacy was invaded, my reputation attacked. 2 weeks into the legal battle, Margaret spread expense projections across her desk. If this goes to full trial, we're looking at $40,000 to $60,000 total. Rodney is betting you'll settle rather than pay these costs. I looked at the numbers. The cost hurt, but the resolve held. Robert Michaels called 2 weeks in with a settlement overture. My client is willing to lease the property back to you at a reasonable rate until you find alternative housing. The property is mine. I'm not leasing my own house. The deed is fraudulent. There's no middle ground between ownership and theft. Then we'll see you in court. I began documenting everything obsessively. daily log of events, timeline of interactions, financial records, photographs of missing items. I converted the guest bedroom into a war room. For days after hiring Margaretchen, she had startling news. "Your son is drowning," she said without preamble. $47,000 in credit card debt across 6 cards. Maxed out, 3 in collections, 1 threatening lawsuit. She showed me spreadsheets. The house wasn't greed. It was desperation. So, he took my house to pay his debts. Tried to. The vacation timing. Leaving you stranded. That was about establishing possession before you could interfere. She produced more evidence. Emails from 3 different real estate agents. All contacted in February. Subject line, property evaluation request. He was shopping my house while living in it. Then, the legally gray area. Data broker search records. Search queries from Rodney's IP address. How to convince parent to transfer property. Deed of gift versus quit claim deed. Can property transfer be reversed? And the final one, dated February 18th. What happens if someone abandons elderly person abroad? Rodney was researching abandonment 6 weeks before doing it. 2 days before the preliminary hearing, Margaret drilled me on testimony. He'll try to reduce you to yes, no answers. Resist that. Judge Morrison allows witnesses to explain. Use that. The hearing arrived. King County Courthouse, Department 15. Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. I sat at the plaintiff's table beside Margaret. Across the aisle, Rodney, Cora, and Michaels. Rodney didn't meet my eyes. Margaret presented opening arguments. Fraudulent transfer through misrepresentation. Elder exploitation. Criminal abandonment context. Michaels countered. Valid gift. Proper execution. Plaintiff's remorse dressed as fraud claims. I took the witness stand. Margaret guided me through the chronology. What did your son tell you about the document? He said it was an update to my medical power of attorney. Standard language about healthcare decisions if I became incapacitated. He said I should sign it to be current. Michaels cross-examined aggressively. But you did sign it, Mr. Evans. You're educated. Ran a business for decades. Capable of reading legal documents. Yet you claim you didn't understand what you signed. I understood it was presented as a medical directive. I didn't know it was actually a property transfer until I found the recorded deed weeks later. Michaels pivoted. Isn't it true you had a disagreement with your son after this trip? There was no disagreement. There was abandonment and theft. Margaret presented the investigation evidence. Financial records showing Rodney's debt. Emails to realtors. Timeline of planning. Michaels objected repeatedly. Relevance. My client's financial situation doesn't invalidate a legal property transfer. Margaret argued. Establishes motive for fraud. Your Honor, this shows this wasn't a gift, but a scheme born of financial desperation. Judge Morrison reviewed documents, made notes. I'm ordering expert examination of the signing circumstances. Independent notary expert to evaluate whether proper protocols were followed. Both parties will make experts available. Hearing continued for 6 weeks, pending expert report. I drove home from the courthouse. Rodney's lawyer was playing it smart by keeping him off the stand. 2 days later, Margaret's development became clear. Michaels filed a motion for psychological evaluation, arguing my age and possible cognitive decline affected my understanding of the document. Rodney's lawyer was calling me mentally unfit. I sat in Dr. Rachel Foster's office for 2 hours of testing. Memory recall, describing my business career, solving puzzles. I provided a detailed chronology of selling my business, showing clear reasoning. 1 week later, Margaret called. Dr. Foster's report is in. You're officially mentally competent. She read excerpts. Subject demonstrates intact memory function, normal cognitive processing for age, fully capable of understanding legal documents and making informed choices. Michaels tried to paint you as a confused old man. This demolishes that narrative. Saracen called the same day. Found your notary. Frank Morrison, freelance. Rodney paid him $300 cash to notarize your signature at a Starbucks. That's a violation of notary protocols. Margaret and I met Frank Morrison 3 days later. Frank was nervous and apologetic. Rodney paid cash up front. I needed the work. When I got there, you seemed perfectly healthy. I wondered about the story, but Rodney rushed everything. Margaret prepared his sworn statement, detailing the procedural irregularities. Frank understood this likely ended his notary business. One evening, Daniel knocked on my door. Cora called me, asked me to pass a message. She's offering to settle. They'll sign a quitclaim deed, return the house legally to you, in exchange for $200,000, one-time payment. They walk away. Case ends. My answer was immediate. No, tell her no. Margaret was unsurprised. Cora is smart enough to know they're losing. $200,000 is her exit strategy. If we win fully, you get your house free and clear. If you settle, you pay them a fortune for stealing from you. We're not settling. I'm not paying ransom for my own property. Sarah delivered her final investigation report, a comprehensive document detailing Rodney's financial desperation, the realtor contacts, and the timeline of planning. Margaret filed it as supplemental evidence. This is devastating to their case. 4 days before the scheduled hearing, Margaret called with urgency. Judge Morrison moved our hearing up 2 days from now. She's reviewed all evidence and wants oral arguments immediately. This might end soon, one way or another. The day of the hearing arrived. Judge Morrison entered. I've examined all submitted evidence. This hearing will address the motion to invalidate the deed of gift based on fraud. Michaels began, arguing for a simple, valid gift. He dismissed Margaret's evidence. The deed stands on its legal merit. Margaret rose, holding Frank Morrison's statement. Your Honor, the notary's sworn statement details procedural violations that invalidate the notarization. The defendant contacted 3 real estate agents before the vacation, requesting property valuations. That's not estate planning. That's theft planning. Morrison leaned forward. Mr. Michaels, how do you explain your client paying 12 times normal notary fee for services at an unusual location? Michaels hesitated. Perhaps he wanted to accommodate his father's schedule. Your Honor, the fee reflects convenience. Morrison turned to Margaret. Miss Chun, fraud is a difficult standard. Can you meet that burden? Margaret nodded. The notary will testify Mr. Evans was never told the document's true nature. The defendant rushed the process, controlled the presentation, never provided a signed copy for review. Michaels called Rodney to the stand. Under cross-examination, Margaret was surgical. You told the notary your father had mobility issues. I said he preferred not to travel that day. Did he have mobility issues? Yes or no? No. Did you tell your father the document was a medical power of attorney? Rodney paused too long. I may have mentioned medical planning in the conversation. He was lying under oath, badly. Morrison called a brief recess. Margaret received a phone call, requested permission to approach the bench. When court reconvened, Morrison addressed both parties. I've been informed that items allegedly stolen from plaintiff's home have been recovered from defendant's storage unit. This adds a criminal dimension to the civil case. Prosecution will receive full referral. Rodney's face went pale. Michaels returned to the defense table looking defeated. Morrison delivered her ruling without dramatic pause. Based on evidence presented, this court finds by preponderance of evidence that the deed of gift was procured through fraudulent misrepresentation. The notarization violated standard protocols. The defendant's testimony contained material inconsistencies. The deed is hereby declared null and void. Title remains with plaintiff Alton Evans. All stolen property must be returned within 48 hours. I'm referring criminal matters to the King County Prosecutor's Office for potential charges. The gavel fell. Case decided. I drove home. The house was mine again. Vindicated, protected. Mine. I sat in the car for a moment, then walked to the front door, inserted my new key. The house smelled like home. I walked over to Daniel's. You won. I won. 2 days after the ruling, I drove to the Seattle Police Evidence Facility to collect my stolen items. I unwrapped each one. The Omega watch, the Leica camera, the silver service. I spent an evening polishing the silver, a methodical, meditative process. Each piece cleaned was a piece of my life restored. Margaret called with news. Morrison issued a judgment order. Rodney and Cora are jointly liable for $15,000, reimbursement of my court costs, compensation for emotional distress, and damages for property theft. Can they pay? Her laugh was humorless. They can't pay their current debts. This judgment goes to the back of a very long line, but it's on their record. Permanent mark. I didn't need the money. I wanted the accountability. 2 weeks later, the prosecutor's office called. Assistant Prosecutor James Riley offered a plea agreement. Rodney would plead guilty to theft and attempted fraud, receive 2 years probation, restitution, and community service. No jail time, but a permanent conviction on his record. I don't want revenge. I want accountability. If probation accomplishes that, accept the plea. Riley sounded relieved. Proportional. The word felt right. I met with Estate Attorney Richard Taft. You want to ensure your son can never inherit this property. Never. Not if I die tomorrow. Not if I die in 30 years. Richard drafted a new will. Clear language. I explicitly disinherit my son Rodney Evans from any claim to my estate. Upon my death, my house shall transfer to the Seattle Housing Foundation to be used for low-income elderly housing. I signed, feeling a strange peace. My son tried to take everything. Now he gets nothing. Not as punishment, as protection. Margaret delivered the final bill in person. $19,500 total. I wrote the check without hesitation. You saved my house and probably my sanity. Worth every penny. Early August, a warm Seattle evening. I sat on my front porch. Down the street, a moving truck backed into the apartment complex. I watched as Rodney and Cora loaded furniture. Eviction. Couldn't afford rent anymore. I stayed on my porch, partially hidden. I watched my son's life collapse into cardboard boxes. Rodney looked thinner, older, defeated. Cora got in the truck passenger seat. Rodney climbed into the driver's seat. The truck pulled away. Gone. I sat in silence, processing what I witnessed. I won. Justice happened. My son was destroyed. None of it felt good. It just felt done. Later, Daniel came over. That was them, wasn't it? Yeah. Evicted for non-payment. How do you feel about that? Empty. Not happy, not sad, just empty. Winning meant my son lost everything. That's not victory. That's survival. September approached. I spent a Saturday weeding, planting fall bulbs, preparing for next season. Daniel helped. Companionable silence. You ever think about selling, moving somewhere easier? Daniel asked. This house almost got stolen from me. Now that I fought to keep it, I'm not leaving. We sat watching evening arrive. My phone rang. Unknown number. I ignored it. My life had returned to peaceful unimportance. Normal problems. Lawn maintenance, grocery shopping, upcoming dentist appointment. No lawyers, no courts, no betrayals. Just life. The ordinary, precious life I defended. The phone stopped ringing. The street stayed quiet. The house stood. I remained on my porch in my home, surrounded by the simple victory of having survived someone else's greed. Justice isn't always satisfying, but it's always necessary. I learned that these past months. Was it worth it? I looked at my house, my life, my terms. Yes, it was worth it. Every dollar, every stress, every painful moment, because some things can't be priced. Some things have to be defended. And some victories, even when they hurt, are still victories worth winning. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right. Thank you for watching.